America is fixing to celebrate 250 years as a nation. Think about that for a moment. 250 years worth of growth, struggle, and innovation. A nation founded on the radical idea that a free people could govern themselves. Yet as preparations continue for this 250th celebration, we're seeing headlines about performers and musicians that have just summarily backed out of the celebration. Some cite personal reasons, or just simply don't want to be associated with the event.
But since the White House announced it last week, you saw 5 of the 9 artists announce publicly that they are pulling out. And many of the reasons that they have said publicly are because they thought it would be more of a nonpartisan event, akin to more like a state fair, but received a lot of blowback after the White House announced that they would be part of the lineup, and they argued that it would be no longer as nonpartisan as they thought it would be.
And while everybody seems to be focused on the artists, I find myself asking a different question. And for generations, that pursuit and that mission had a name. It was called the American Dream. Has the American Dream changed? Is it even still alive? Stick around, because what we're talking about today on this video is a question I think these artists and musicians really need to step back and think really hard about. What does the American Dream even mean to them?
We can still believe, 'cause Bossman is on the air.
And the story continues. Bossman on the air with you, broadcasting for the American Dream, built on faith, sustained by freedom, because the story isn't over. You know, this isn't a new conversation. Long before America became the United States, some of the earliest settlers learned a lesson that would help shape the future of this country. The idea sounded noble. Everyone would work together. Everyone part of something bigger than them. They'd share in that effort together. Nobody would be left behind. But over time, human nature had other plans. Some worked harder, some goofed off, yet everyone expected the same result. Eventually, those early settlers learned something very important. Freedom and responsibility belong together. And when people are allowed to benefit from their own effort, they work harder. They produce more, and they take ownership and pride in what they're doing. And for that, the community becomes stronger. That lesson was not that people were selfish. The lesson was that responsibility matters. I think we're lacking in a large degree in today's society. Let me know if you agree in the comments below. For 250 years, America has been wrestling with that same balance, freedom and responsibility, individual opportunity and service to others. Maybe that's one of the most American ideals ever conceived. Not that everyone gets the same outcome, but that everyone gets the opportunity to have one. Now, have we always gotten it right? Of course not. Plenty of times, in fact, we've made mistakes. But for 250 years, generation after generation, we believed those principles were worth preserving. So much so, we set up a book full of documents. Think about that. Americans have enjoyed something most people throughout history have: the freedom to speak. With that freedom to do many other things. Cultures all over the world look to us with respect, wishing they could have it. This isn't normal throughout human history. This is the only country that has what we have. There is only one America. So as America approaches its 250th birthday, maybe the question isn't what should we celebrate? Maybe the question is, what should we reflect upon? If I could interject one word here, that would be grace. Grace for the mistakes. Lord knows no generation has gotten everything perfect. Grace for the disagreements we have today, recognizing that free people were never meant to think exactly alike, to each their own. And grace for those who came before us, who endured hardship, made sacrifices, and passed down the very freedoms we live with. And lastly, grace for those who allow us to still work hard to leave America better tomorrow if we haven't. For 250 years, this nation has been an ongoing experiment. Not a story of perfection, mind you, but a story of perseverance. Perhaps the best way to honor that legacy is not by pretending that we've always been right, but instead by showing enough grace to learn from the past, something we've kind of lost sight of here. Let's respect one another in the present and leave a stronger foundation for the future. Do you think the American people, the working class, do you think they see things differently? If so, what does it mean to be American? Let me know what you think. I'd like to know. There was no promise that this nation would survive. There was no assurance that free people could govern themselves. There certainly was no certainty that a collection of colonies scattered throughout the Atlantic coast would someday become the most influential republic in human history. Mistakes were made. And over time, in many a generation, many farmers, workers, mothers, fathers, and people from every walk of life, millions of ordinary Americans, believed the American dream was worth pursuing and worth protecting. Many lived for that dream, and just as important, many died defending it. So as we approach this anniversary, I think it's worth remembering a very important fact. This celebration isn't about one president. It's not about one political party either. This country was already 246 years old before that man took office. So the fact that you're sticking your nose up at a very crucial celebration because of one man makes you a hypocrite. In spite of, and not because of, our current president, we've survived wars, depression, and every conceivable natural disaster Mother Nature could throw our way. And yet, through it all, the experiment continued. Why I believe this should be a time for reflection. Not because all of us agree or disagree, and certainly not because of who's in that office, but because we share something bigger than that. Bigger than the office, bigger than anything we could possibly talk about. We are a nation built on faith, on freedom, and a personal responsibility. And that belief can help build this nation to be better tomorrow than it was today. That, to me, is what the American story is and what it is collectively, the American. So I'll leave you with this. I'm going to ask you, do you think we still understand what that story means? If it means something different, let me know in the comments. Tell me what your thoughts are. And perhaps more importantly, what chapter are we going to write next? Whatever that book says, and however that chapter unfolds, the story continues.